video now. Good morning, world. It's going to do a little video. Let's see, I was talking on the Earth cam and then I thought to shoot a video. So I'm going to try and recap. Let's see. I'm working on the hexagons, silk. What else? Snag the paper again. I'm getting maybe somewhat good at that, which I don't know is really what I want to do. So we use, it's called the English paper method. So you use paper, I use a glue stick. I glue the paper, then fold the fabric over it. I have a 2-inch by 48-inch long ruler. So when I glue it, then I push them underneath that metal ruler to compress the shape. Then I baste each corner where the fabric meets. Turn it inside out, remove the paper, because I figure for an heirloom project, I am using silk because I ideate the value of using a noble fabric as a noble gesture, as a noble creation and product to carry on. If I don't remove that paper over time for an heirloom project, I start as my initiation, the initiation of the end goal, end game, I'm going to have a lump of dust, okay, over time, I figure. So I'm removing the paper. Part of what I'm doing is, that I've talked about, I have about 1,100 of these hexagons to baste, and what I'm finding is I'm getting much better. I'm getting more refined as I go. The stitches are becoming smaller and just little tack bars, and not the Yankee ingenuity stitch I started with, where like a little to the left, a little to the right, a little big, a little small. The process is getting more refined. Granted, I've got approximately 1,100 to do. I was talking earlier about the undertaking is it's tedious. I don't think there's any way around that. The inherent value of accruing skills is by being present. I'm just getting better at it. I have what would be the perfect opportunity for tedium. You know, I can have a leg up while I work on this. I was talking about seeing through, knowing that the backdrop on the canopy of the bed is probably going to have lights from shining on my plants, and so I thought about that. You know, do I want to change the shape of the square into something else? How do I feel about that shape with the light passing through. This is from the United States. One of the joys of owning an iPhone is I don't get to escape telemarketers with made-up phone numbers. Alright, so where was I? So I chose a square. Sometimes I make it a bit of a hexagon. Knowing that the light was going to pass through the shantung silk, which doesn't have a right or wrong side. Both sides are conceivable to be the front of the fabric. The front is the back. And it has little slubs in it well, silk comes from a worm's butt, so it has little slubs of, varying the thread width, the fatness, I decided I wanted to keep that, in a way, a natural kaleidoscope effect of how light would pass through opacity and transparency of layers. That was something that was pre-thought. It's the first time I'm working with silk, and first time I'm quilting. And I spoke earlier about I studied quilting, and then I changed its form. So I'm a first timer using silk, first timer quilting, and first timer now engineering nuance and variation in the theme and delivery of a quilt. So my quilt is not going to be used on the bed, it's going to be used to hang. And so I've started with quilt making methods, changed the orientation for my use, and now I'm changing the order of the stitch, the engineering of putting it together, and what else? Trying to understand silk, that it unravels. Part of my design, cutting the squares, is about cutting them big enough so they won't unravel on the back side, understanding what I'm using them for. I don't think the wall hanging is going to get a lot of tugging or torsion, so it's got enough of an edge that it's not going to unravel. The basting was really just to preserve the shape, but I thought it was necessary because I'm not going to stitch around the perimeter. I'm just going to stitch at the points. Put a square knot at each point on the back side of the wall hanging fabric. So I liked the I liked exposing both the face of the design and having exposed the back, the underlying, the belly of construction. I liked the construction method to be viewable and understood. That we possibly, you know, I've grown up in an industrial age. I like, say, when I go into a cafe or something, a modern cafe or restaurant where they've got the industrial piping up there, but they do something artistic with it. It's not always a bad vacuous thing to see the machinations of a building in a way done well. It connects the character, the ambiance, the lack of a better word, history, okay? In my case, the slack of a better word, I'll use the word history, a history of a building. Let's see. Candidly, one of the difficulties I'm having right now, well, I'm giving me a little time to adjust to post-surgery physicality, mentality, and weaning off of drugs, which I'm pretty happy about. Really happy to get off of that. I had a prescription for 70 oxycodone, and I'm happy to report I didn't even get it prescribed. Okay, but that's informing me what the pain of delivery should be anticipated. You know, if you need 70 oxycodone. So I'm pretty happy that thus far I don't need it. And I've kind of worked on that in degrees of concertedly and tenderly trying to feel my way. So prior to bunion surgery, I watched one video on YouTube where they use this saw, circular blade saw, and cut bone. I'm like, oh no, it's probably better if I do not know all that's involved, because, you know, it's an awful prospect, and I didn't want, you know, it wasn't aiding my situation. The other thing I did is I read reviews on bunion surgery that the pain it hurts really bad. Well, I imagine anytime you cut bone, that's your precursor, okay? And the first night or two, I was taking oxycodone. I had my alarm. It said I could take 1 to 2 every 4 to 6 hours. I was trying one every 6 hours. That worked most of the time, except the second night. Then I started doubling up. About, it was at night, about 2 every 6 hours. And then I just, it's hard to shake that off during the day. Then I started tuning into, I know where the surgery sites are. I saw the doctor both talk to me every time I went with her and mark on my foot. So I was trying to imagine through my cast where were those mark sites. I'm like, I do not have pain at any of those sites. So where I would have them is a bunion on the little toe, bunion on the big toe, and a titanium screw at my mid-tendon, which is splaying, which is causing the bunions and the roll. So they're fixing the tendon at the midfoot as well. So I didn't feel pain there, so I was trying to tune into where do I feel pain? I'm like, I feel a hot spot on the heel. And I'm like, that's from resting it. So I would try and, I felt my way around. What is this support structure? Pushing, it's got a little lip here, pushing back on it to relieve pressure off my heel. And I found that I could fiddle with that. And I was instructed to take both oxycodone and Tylenol. 3,000 milligrams a day, 2 pills every 8 hours. And I decided, once I started kind of tuning into the pain, and then it wasn't at the incision site, I thought, okay, I'm not going to take the oxycodone, but I'll take the Tylenol instead. And then, set my alarm, and then feel through that. And I'm like, I'm still not feeling pain. So then I decided to back off the Tylenol. And then it just became a management of pressure sites. Long about the 3rd or 4th day, maybe it was the 5th, I don't know. I did not sleep through the night, so that had me concerned, but I've been sleeping a lot. And then, of course, the brain's like, fuck, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with myself? And surprisingly, being physically autonomous, being mobile, gives one, I imagine, a conduit to feel you're doing something. There's a sense of relief to come and go. And without that, it seems to be like an inescapable funk. Again, not music, stench of stale air, of, come on, get something moving here. So thus my new preoccupation, learning to sing. So practicing that, working on my 1,100 hexagons, getting them to the basting juncture, and I've got some notes to do. I was having a hard time doing notes earlier, and I don't have a whole lot, in part because I'm I took a very circular direction to speaking about this because I'm rethinking. What to do. I think 0 is the best we can attain with no CHEARODE. See, hero, road, cheer road. RODE, road the deadhead. ROD parentheses HEAD. Parentheses HEAD. So what erodes adds in the same direction its head had. Head had hath hatched. Why 0? And why now? Well, obviously, I don't mind speaking my mind or anyone else's. And I don't mean one in quotation marks, an illusion of one. Speaking for someone else. Why? Because I'm thinking of someone else. Form follows function. Dare I say, by reduction, even. Suction. I'm not here to script desire. Why? Because that's a Freeman doth stupid to toff defend gam game. Ea-ven. VAIN.